Today we're going to be looking at hello, the first of the problems in problem set 1 of CS50. It's a really straightforward problem, so this is more just to get you used to the setup and the format of the problem sets before we move on to some of the harder ones later on. I'll be using the cloud-based version of a program called Visual Studio Code, which is the same IDE as used in the course. If you don't already have that set up, the instructions to do so are on the problem set page itself, which I'll link below. And once you have it all set up, you should be faced with something similar to this. So there's a lot more features within VS Code, but for now we only need to focus on three main areas, and that is the text editor, which will appear up here, and this is where we're going to write all of our code, the terminal, which will be down here, and this just gives us a command line interface allowing us to run commands on our virtual system or our virtual code space, if you will. And on the left hand side we have our Explorer, which just gives us a graphical overview of all the directories and folders in our current code space, which at the moment is obviously empty. So the first thing we need to do is create a new directory to keep everything organized, and that is essentially just the same as us right clicking and creating a new folder on Windows or Mac, except we'll be using the command line instead of the graphical user interface. And this is just a good habit to get into. It's going to save you a lot of time later on if you can use a terminal to do these tasks. So just a quick recap on some of the commands we'll be using. And actually it might be useful to know that when we write in these commands we're using what's known as bash, which is a Unix shell or a command language, you could say in this case. It's not so important to know what that means exactly, but if you ever wanted to reference or look up these commands, you could say they're bash commands. The first one, Mkdir, is for making a new directory or making a new folder. CD is for changing our current directory, so this is just similar to double clicking on a folder on Windows or Mac. LS, which is used for listing all of the files or directories within another directory, so similar to how Finder works on Mac or File Explorer on Windows. And finally we have code, CODE, which is a Visual Studio Code specific command that can be used to create a new file, and it will open it in our editor for us so we can get started and write our code. Okay, so now let's go ahead and actually look at this problem set. So first we need to make a program. Okay, so now let's go ahead and actually look at the problem set. So now let's go ahead and actually look at the problem set. So we need to make a program that first prompts the user for their name, and in response prints a personalized statement greeting the user with hello followed by their name. So first of all we need to create a new directory within our code space so we can keep everything organized, and to do this we can use Mkdir in our terminal down here, followed by the name of the directory we want to create. So in this case we'll call it hello. And as soon as you do that, you'll see on the left hand side in our Explorer we have a new directory or a new folder called hello. We can also check this by typing ls into our terminal, which will show us we have one directory in our code space called hello. If we were to make a second directory, so Mkdir goodbye this time, and then run ls again, you'll see now we have two directories within our code space, which aligns with what is being shown in our Explorer on the left hand side. Next we need to move inside of our hello directory, so to do this we type hello we type cd followed by hello. This is going to move us within inside that directory, and you can see that our command prompt has changed straight away. It's now showing us that we're within the hello directory, and then it's given us an option to write our commands. And if we type ls now, you'll see that it's empty because we've yet to create a file within inside this hello directory. So to create that file we can use code, CODE, which is the VS Code specific command for creating a new file, and we follow this with the name of the file we want to create, so in this case hello, and also the extension, so .c. We need to create a .c file. Okay, so now that we've got a new file that's opened up in our text editor for us, we can start with our Boilerplate C Code. So this is the code that we're going to use for all of our programs within CS50, or at least how we're going to start most of them. The first thing we need to do is include standard.io, standard.io.h, which is just a header file that gives us access to some more features and functions of the C language that we can use within our code. And then we're going to say int main void, and we're going to follow that with our two curly braces there. So you don't need to know what int main void means at the minute. Later on in CS50 it'll all be explained and it will all make sense, but for now we can just get on with writing our actual program. So first we need to prompt the user for input. In this case we'll just be asking them their name, and to do this we can make use of the function getString, which will take an argument in the form of a question that will then be pushed to the user and it will give us their answer back as the return value. So we can use get string followed by the question that we want to ask. So in this case, what is your name? Put space here, and we can end this with a semicolon. So this is just a note into the compiler that this is the end of our statement so that it can understand our code more clearly. But then we also need to make sure that we are saving that return value somewhere so we can reference it later on. So to do that, we can use a variable. If you remember in C, every time we declare a new variable, we need to define the data type, which in this case is going to be a string. So if we declare a new variable with data type string, and we'll call this name, and we don't want it up there, we need it up here, so we can type string name. And this can be called anything you want. It's just generally best practice to keep your variable names short and concise, and easily readable to humans and for anyone else that might be reading your code. And we have made a mistake here because if you notice the string is grayed out. Anytime something's grayed out, especially when you're using syntax highlighting, which is where all these colors come in, so different keywords and different functions are given a different color. If something is grayed out, it usually means you've made a mistake, which quite often can be a spelling mistake. In this case, we forgot to include our we spelled that wrong, our CS50 header file, which includes the data type string. So string is not sort of natively a data type in C, but you'll learn about that more in the CS50 course. But for now, it's just useful to know that if something is grayed out, you've probably made a mistake, probably a spelling mistake or something small somewhere along the way. Okay, so now that we have our user input and we're storing it within a variable we've created called name, the next step is to print our welcome message to the terminal. So for this, we'll use a function called printf, which is included within the standard IO header file up here. And the F just stands for formatted, which means that we can not only pass literal strings or literal text as an argument, but we can also pass things like variables within that function and they'll be formatted for us. So we can say printf, and we're going to pass as an argument first the literal text hello, and then we're going to place a placeholder S, and the S here just connotes data type of string. Then we can end our quotation marks and pass a second argument, which is going to be name, and this is just a variable that we created up here. We also need to add a semicolon at the end. And if we just quickly run through our code and see what's happening here, first we are asking the user with this getString function, what is your name? Their input is then being stored within this variable called name. We're then using the printf function to print to the terminal hello followed by name. So this variable will replace this placeholder once the code actually runs. So now we can test our code and give it a run, see if everything works. If we want to clear our terminal down here, by the way, just so it's a bit less cluttered, we can use Command K or Control K, and that'll give you a clean slate so you can see what's going on. Before we run our program, we need to compile it because C is a compiled language. So for this, we can use another command, make, which we just follow by the name of our file, so hello without the extension, we don't need the .c, and then make will handle everything for us and turn our source code, which is this code up here, into an executable program that the computer can run. So if we do that and we get no error message, generally that means things went well, and we can see that by looking on the left in our Explorer. We not only have our hello.c file here, we also have a second hello file, which if we try and open will give us an error because this is binary, this is computer code, and so we won't be able to understand it even if we could open it. We can also see this in the terminal by typing ls, and what you'll see here is we have our original file hello.c. We also have the executable, which is highlighted in green, and that green just means it can be run by the computer. So basically it's executable. It's the same as any file you would double click on your Mac or PC. The computer will know what to do with it. For us to actually run it, we can't double click, but what we can do in the terminal is we can type // followed by hello. Not a hello.c, we just need the name because we're now running this file, the executable, and not our source code. And if we press enter and run that, you'll see our program is working. It's asking us what is your name. If we were to type Dave and enter, it comes back and says hello Dave. Now this is obviously a bit messy, this is where our program ended, and then it gave us a new command line prompt telling us we're in a hello directory and it's waiting for our next command. So to clean this up a little bit, we could go back to our code and add a new line. A new line in C is \n, and we can add some punctuation. And now we need to save our file once more, so Command S or Control S. We can clear our terminal. We also need to recompile our program because we've made changes to it. So we can say make hello. And again, no error messages usually means something went right, and this will have just replaced this file for us. So we can now go down and run hello. And what is your name? We can type Dave, and now we have a much cleaner program. It's given us a new line after the program has ran, it's finished, and it's waiting for our next command. So that is everything done, but in CS50 we marked not only on the correctness but also on the style of the code. So if we just first double check the correctness, we can do this using check50. So we can type the command check50 followed by CS50 /problems /2022 /spring /hello, and we run that and just give it a little while to run through. And you'll probably have to enter the passphrase for your SSH key, which is something you should have set up beforehand, and if you haven't, I'll leave a link below on how to do that. And everything seems good. We've got 4 green lights. It says hello C does exist, which it does. Hello.c compiles without error, which it did, and then it's tested 2 names for us and it's came back and the program has performed how it was expected to perform. So we can now check the style by typing style50 and the name of our file hello.c, and it says it looks good, the style is good, but it does say consider adding more comments. Now in this case our program is so short and simple that adding comments will probably complicate it more than not having comments, so it wouldn't make sense to comment this up. But for the sake of CS50, if you want 100% on style, then you will just need to add a couple of comments in. So we can add ask user for input, and then we can say print welcome message. Then if we save this once more and run style50, you see now that suggestion has gone. It says looks good, and that should give you 100%. So that's it. That was hello from problem set 1 of CS50.